Let's face it, 2020, it wasn't the best when it came to a major superhero movie release. Wonder Woman 1984 was a decent attempt at continuing the ever so slightly afloat DC cinematic universe, and the charming Harley Quinn Birds of Prey left me a little disheartened. The film itself feeling more like a side story rather than a main building block towards something bigger. And yes, while Marvel has been putting out an episode of one of their shows consistently since January of this year, there hasn't been a major release to tie us fans over with since Far From Home, back in 2019. And then summer 2021 happened, and with it came the release of both Black Widow and The Suicide Squad. And as you've probably guessed by the title of this video, today we'll be talking about the movie with several years of build-up and an expected emotional payoff. The Suicide Squad. Here's the deal. Myself, much like you all at home, like to pretend that the first Suicide Squad movie doesn't exist. But it does. Unfortunately. And we have to live with that fact. It'll be getting its own separate video at a later point. Despite the obvious setbacks that you'd think its name would bring it, however, The Suicide Squad is probably my favourite movie to have been released in a while. Coming at us from the mind of director James Gunn, the creative visionary behind a little indie mock-up that goes by the name of Guardians of the Galaxy, and a blockbuster superhero hit that changed the comedic style of superhero cinema in the long run, more commonly known as Human Z. I won't lie to you, I couldn't find any footage of this anywhere. There's a re-upload from Bilibili on YouTube, and that's literally all I could find. And after watching this small trailer, I can't explain it, but...
Wait! Before you do, let's piss in the box all over the Human Z.
Okay.
This just sort of feels a bit wrong. Anyway, back on track. This sequel/reboot is a continuation from 2016's Suicide Squad and manages to perfectly navigate the tricky ground between both of these aspects, featuring many returning characters from the first film, such as Rick Flag, Harley Quinn, and Captain Boomerang, to name but a few, pairing them up alongside new, fresh faces to the DCEU lineup, such as Bloodsport, Peacemaker, Ratcatcher 2, and my personal favourite, The Weasel.
Not a werewolf, okay? He's a weasel. He's harmless. I mean, he's not harmless. He's killed 27 children.
Compared to the 2016 film, however, which felt like tonal whiplash at times, The Suicide Squad breathes new life into the universe, making every character feel unique and like a real person dealing with the consequences of their previous actions. They're awful people, make no mistake. Each member's probably killed dozens, if not hundreds of people, but you get an insight into their own psyche, and you can't help but feel attached to them as the film goes on. They've all got their own goals, fears, and perspectives on what is being asked of them, as well as many, many vocal opinions about it.
We're all gonna die.
Viola Davis is back, reprising her role as Amanda Waller, and once again proves that she's one of the best characters to come out of these films. She was fantastic in 2016, and she's even better now.
This mission went more important than you could possibly imagine. Are you in?
She's everything you'd expect from a government agent in charge of keeping superpowered villains under control. She's ruthless, efficient, and just done with everyone's shit.
Starfish is a slang term for a butthole. Think there's any connection?
No.
Gunn knew what he was doing with the characterization in this film, and his efforts and research really show. Davies is allowed to really let loose as Waller this time around. She's constantly threatening the main cast, whether that be through manipulation, threatening actions against their civilian families, or the very direct threat of the bomb planted in each of their skulls, which makes her this ever-present threat that's constantly looming over the group in the background. You get a real sense that at any moment she could kill one of them off if they so much as mess up.
Damn it.
The two standout characters for me were Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba, and John Cena, as the tongue-tyingly titled Peacemaker. I mean seriously, Peacekeeper just rolls off the tongue so much easier. One of these fine gents is a world-class marksman, able to turn the smallest of items into a deadly weapon. His father, a retired mercenary training him to kill from the moment he was born. And the other's father was a soldier, training his son to kill from birth, turning him into a world-class marksman, able to turn the smallest of items into the deadliest of weapons. But for America. On a serious note though, these characters stood out for me through their sheer presence on screen. Idris Elba is able to really bring his full acting prowess to the forefront here, and his personality shines through and really sells you on the character, separating him from the public consciousness of just, he's a replacement Deadshot. He's a cynic and highly efficient at what he does. The steady stream of gadgets that he pulls off of his suit really emphasize his mindset of having a tool for every occasion. He is in a sense the main character of the film, and a lot of emphasis is placed on his relationships with the rest of the cast and how he emotionally matures somewhat through the events that transpire. On the flip side, I've never been the biggest John Cena fan. He's definitely a toss of the coin type actor for me with the movies he's in, but I can genuinely say he surprised me this time. The trailer footage made it seem like he'd be a dry humour type, and he would definitely feel dated the longer the film went on, but he was actually quite charming. He got a good few laughs at me throughout the film. His personality and motivation really set him apart from the other characters. I'd say he was utilised really well. There's obviously one or two scenes which fall a little flat, but overall he puts in a solid performance in both dialogue and action. Speaking of action, this time around it was nothing less than spot on. Fights feel gritty, with a lot of weight behind them, and the film does not shy away from using its R rating. There's blood and gore aplenty throughout, with some especially Lovecraftian elements that happen towards the climax. Margot Robbie is given a fantastic action set piece as Harley Quinn that harkens back to familiar scenes in Birds of Prey, and it comes together nicely to show that while she may not be a superpowered member of the group, she's just as easily able to hold her own in a fight, even if it stretches the suspension of disbelief somewhat. The comedy should be no surprise to anyone. If you enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy, you'll easily enjoy The Suicide Squad just as much. This movie knows exactly what it's doing. It's not taking itself seriously in the slightest. It takes several opportunities to make fun of not only its characters, but the very premise of superhero movies as we've come to know them. We know who these characters are. We know it's a comic book movie, and the film doesn't waste our time with introductions and long origin stories unlike the first film. At most, you get Amanda Waller giving a brief introduction about them, and then they're on their way. The film respects its audience, as it knows the average moviegoer won't care about the in-depth backstory of a bunch of random characters who could literally be dead 20 seconds later. Now, comedy is obviously subjective, so something that made me laugh might not make another person do the same. There are flat jokes within the film, sometimes at crucial moments, and they can hamper a scene's gravitas when they could have been left out. But overall, these are few and far between, and you quickly forget they were even there due to the pacing. It may not be perfect, it most definitely won't be what everyone expects. It doesn't reach the narrative highs of Endgame, nor the genre-changing comedy of the original Guardians. However, it's unique due to its mix of gore, humour and pathos. It's a strong, coherent and overall fun movie that for me really shines above the rest of the current DC lineup. If its success starts a change in the way DC chooses to make their movies going forward, opting for a more light-hearted and comedic tone interspersed between the dark and gritty, I could happily say I'd be along for the ride, as it would offer a different approach to how Marvel has gone about it. Anyone walking out of this film I can easily say will have enjoyed their time, and I'll rate the film an 8 out of 10. Overall, thank you for watching the video. If you have your own opinions on the film, let me know down below. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever you feel like, and I'll see you in the next video.